Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
Is the Cinereelists, episode 517, where we talk about movies and movie lists and movie obsession for about an hour. This week, we will be talking about the Disney Plus streaming TV show, The Book of Boba Fett. Kyle and Zach are out for the week, so I've called in the cavalry. Please welcome longtime friend of the podcast, our resident Batman expert, Mohsen. How's it going, Mo?
Good. How you doing, James?
I am doing great. I'm excited to have you here.
Awesome. Yes, I am excited to be here. Thank you for a non-Batman title to show my diversity. I'm really excited and I'm ready for the challenge, even though the new Batman movie is 15 days away.
All right.
But
are you counting
days.
this down like Christmas style? You've got like one of those little boards on the wall where you flip it up and take a treat out of the box. And
now, James, I would appreciate if you stopped peeking through my windows. That would be helpful. I have actually a Google Keep with a countdown to the movie. And I did get tickets that were sold out. The quote from WB was they were sold out immediately for the IMAX special preview on Tuesday with a commemorative comic book once you enter the theater. So I'm very excited and proud of myself for getting those tickets.
So are you like Thursday night before, or what's your...
This is normally, yes, but this is a Tuesday. And then I'm going back. I'm skipping Wednesday. Then I'm going back Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I'm skipping Sunday. We'll see what happens from there. But yes, those are all tickets on my account and in my digital possession. So.
Sure. Well, I mean, we probably should have you on for that. You know?
Oh, I don't know. I
mean, as the Batman expert,
James.
It seems
I don't know
like
about time, James.
it seems like as the Batman expert, you're kind of, you're already obliged to do it, I think.
Yeah, you're saying I have no choice. All right, very well.
I mean, this will
count on me.
This will be the first time. No, it won't be the first time. So we started this podcast in 2014. When did Batfleck happen? Was that pre-2014?
That's post 2014. We actually did The Dark Knight, I believe. I believe that was our first one, was The Dark Knight, because that's when we went together and Zach stared at me the whole 5-minute scene of Batman getting his back broken. And I didn't know that Zach was staring at me until he told me later, which I found a little disturbing. But
sure.
But yeah, I think that was the first one we did was Dark Knight.
Yeah. No, that would have been Rises, right? Wasn't Rises right. The one that we saw in IMAX and we saw it?
It was Rises. I'm sorry. Yeah,
we saw it pre-Aurora shooting.
Yes.
I was so happy I saw that movie before that happened, because that would have totally buzzkilled that movie for me.
No doubt. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was Rises. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
But and then Ben Affleck.
So we've gone like a full Batman cycle with you. This podcast has existed a full Batman cycle.
That's impressive right there. You should be very proud of that. That's pretty awesome.
I don't know what that means, but
well, and then technically it's a mega cycle, right? Because we've got Keaton coming back. So there's a whole lot going on. So there's a whole lot of Batman we're going to be able to cover in the next year. Well, within this year, actually. Sure. It'll be awesome.
This has nothing to do with today's topic, but I'm curious to know, because on this podcast, Justice League, the Zack Snyder cut happened, and you would be shocked to know that the one person out of the three that do this podcast on a weekly basis that likes that movie is Zach.
Really?
So I'm curious to know, do you like the Justice League Zack Snyder cut?
I do, because I saw the original cut. Sure. Had I not seen the original cut, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But
so you like
the Zack
it?
Snyder cut.
You like it because it's better than the really awful version.
It is dramatically better. Yes. Is it great? No. But it's definitely way better than the little campy jokes and stuff like that were put in the theater release of Justice League, which I just stared at the screen in horror, with half of what Ben Affleck's Batman said. And you can even tell when he's saying it that he's like, I can't believe I'm saying this. And so, yes, I like the Zack Snyder version much better, but still,
but it's still not like a good Batman movie, right?
Not at all. They lost me with that little walker thing that could climb up the tunnel thing, but you could walk just as fast as the walker could go. Like that's really where you kind of lost me with the Batman stuff. I was like, okay, we're just trying to sell toys. And yeah, so yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the Batman. That's going to be, in my estimation, that's going to be Nolan level. I really think it's going. I really do.
Interesting.
It's going to be different though.
Yeah. Have you seen the Planet of the Apes movies, like the recent ones, the reboot? It's the same director.
I know. I'm a little bit of a sucker for Planet of the Apes. I love that franchise. I'll be honest. I can't think of the lead ape now.
Caesar.
Thank you. Matt Reeves made him a little bit too humanish for me, and it just kind of freaked me out. It was disturbing. Like, it was too much to me, that it was almost disturbing, and I don't think I got to enjoy the movie as much. And I know a lot of people hate on them, but I'm kind of a sucker for Planet of the Apes. I think it's kind of
no. I like the first and the second one a lot, and then the third one is fine. I think they lost. I mean, I think I hadn't really thought about it, but I do agree. Like, by the time you get to the third one, it's like a weird like Holocaust thing going on, like with prison camps and stuff like that. And and yeah, they had humanized the apes so much that like it was a big downer. I mean, the whole movie is like a big downer.
Isn't that amazing? I think that's the first time that CGI, like being so great, took away from the movie. Like, that's the first time for me anyway. Because like that was the only thing that bothered me. Otherwise, I think I would have liked it a lot more. Yeah. But I was like, oh, Caesar looks like a dude. Like, it's too much. Like,
yeah, and they're like practically crucifying him in that movie. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is intense for sure. It is intense, but I do like that franchise. So I think that's why I'm kind of excited. And I always like when a director, and Robert Pattinson's kind of messing with the media right now. He says he does that. He says he lies and stuff in interviews because he has to a certain extent. But I love when anybody that does a movie that they're so into those characters and they like enjoy those characters. To me, that just translates so clearly to screen. And that's what I'm excited about this Batman movie, because both the director and both the lead actor love this Batman character. And they put their all into this Batman character. And whenever you do that, that's like Christopher Nolan taking on the franchise. You know that there's going to be the right investment to make this movie work. And that's why I'm just so excited to see what they create.
Interesting. Before we move on, I got to get you on record. Will there be, in the new Batman movie, a Joaquin Phoenix cameo at some point, even if it's like just a stinger?
I think it'll be a post-credit thing.
You do? You think he'll show up?
I do, because like I think back to the Dark Knight, and Batman Begins to the Dark Knight. Batman Begins at the end of that movie with the Joker card, I felt was the best setup for another movie, Batman Obsession aside, from any movie I've ever seen, where it's the teaser for the sequel. And I think they'll do something like that. I think with Joaquin Phoenix at the end, I really do, because the time periods match too.
Sure.
So I really do. And then the fact that they're currently filming Joker 2, right? Or is it almost done? I can't remember.
I have no clue. I haven't heard anything.
I know that Joker 2 is underway. What stage it's in, I don't know. But the fact that that's already underway makes me feel like there's a handoff somewhere, that's going to happen. I really do think. And then they're going to do a trilogy for sure. So at least that's what Matt Reeves' plan is. Obviously, the box office will paint that picture. But yeah, I think there will be. I think we'll see Joaquin Phoenix in the second one, but I think they'll tease him in the first one.
Interesting. Yeah, they were so adamant when Joker came out about it being like a separate story and that it wasn't in the universe and like all this stuff.
Sure.
But I don't think they can contain themselves.
Especially when it made $1 billion. I mean, right. Yeah, when they see that, they're like, and then I think this Batman is going to match it a little bit. Obviously, it's not rated R, but it's a heavy PG-13. And I think the tone with Riddler kind of gets the audience ready for that darkness, because the Riddler, this Riddler seems pretty dark.
Mhm.
So I think it's going to be a perfect handoff. But I think they're doing it the responsible way, like letting the audience know, okay, this is a different Batman. This isn't for like little kiddies to go to. This is a little different. And then I think we will see Joaquin Phoenix. I hope so anyway, but I think so.
Yeah.
Good question though.
It'll be I would be looking. I would look forward to more Joaquin, although I'm not sure I need the same darkness of Joker. Like it
Yeah,
was a really dark movie. It
yeah.
was
The dark
almost
with
not fun to watch at some point.
well, it's the kind of movie I only wanted to see once. Like I
Yeah.
said, this was great, but I don't ever want to see it
Yeah,
again.
I respect it artistically, but it was
Yeah.
not a good time, I would say.
No, I didn't walk out skipping down the hallways of the movie theater after that one. It was a little bit too, and it was just a little too sad, like it's just in a mental health way. It was just kind of sad.
Sure.
So yeah, so I think they're gonna have to tweak that Joker a little bit, and I don't know if Joaquin Phoenix will be open to that because he's pretty locked in on his stuff when he does it.
Mhm.
So I think that actually is a good point that you bring up. It'll be interesting to see if that comes into play or not.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, forget about Batman for just
What?
a minute, Motion. I know it's
Oh.
hard for you, but
All right, that was horrifying. that statement. All right, I'll switch gears. I'll do
yeah, we'll switch gears to one of your other obsessions and mine as well.
Yes.
Star Wars, right?
And we both agree that Empire Strikes Back is the best movie to date, right? Do we still agree on that?
I mean, what, like something replaced it? Yes.
I'm just making sure.
It's the
Just
best.
Rise of Skywalker came strong. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, nothing's replaced it. I have other favorites now, but
Sure.
I can't imagine anything's ever going to replace Empire just because it has to fight all like 40 years of nostalgia at this point.
And that's so true. And you have to find something cooler than a snow speeder, and I don't know that that's possible.
For
So
sure.
I wish them luck.
Definitely.
All right.
Okay, so we're going to talk Book of Boba Fett, the new Disney Plus Star Wars television show. Before we do that, just a little bit of housekeeping. There's a video version of this podcast on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Cinereelists, REEL with an S on the end. Find us there. Watch the podcast while you listen to it. If you have never seen what motion looks like, go check out the YouTube.
I apologize in advance.
You've been on this podcast a lot. I'm pretty sure nobody knows what you look like. Other than
kept
us.
it that way.
Yeah.
Secret. I should have worn a cape and cowl or something.
You can also support the podcast on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. You can leave us an Apple Podcast review or send us a listener email to heyguys@cinereelists.com. We got a couple emails this week that I'm holding for next week where I will discuss it with Zach and Kyle. So shoot us an email. We'll talk about it next week. With that being said, we got a lot to talk about, Mo.
Yes,
we're going to get into
do.
it right after this clip.
Jabba had many vassals. We've got a lot of ground to cover if we are to keep his empire intact.
I can make the rounds without you. Jabba rarely left his chambers.
Jabba ruled with fear. I intend to rule with respect.
If I may,
Speak freely.
in difficult times, fear is a sure bet.
That was the Book of Boba Fett.
What a great clip.
An amazing clip. The best.
Riveted.
And available. Boba
Nice.
Fett is an American space western television series created by Jon Favreau for the Disney streaming service Disney Plus. It stars Tamura Morrison. I think that's how you say his name. I don't know.
That was good. That was good.
Ming-Na Wen and others that we will discuss in spoilers, I would say.
And if you haven't seen it by now, you deserve to be spoiled.
The official IMDb plot synopsis for the Book of Boba Fett is the bounty hunter Boba Fett and mercenary Fennec Shand navigate the underworld when they return to Tatooine to claim Jabba the Hutt's old turf. Which is generally what that was about, I would say.
Kinda, yeah. Sure.
I mean, that's the setup.
It's not wrong. Yeah.
Right. For sure.
But it's not right. But it's not right.
So we're going to talk a bunch of spoilers in this discussion in a few minutes. First, we're going to talk about the series as a whole. So if you have not seen the series yet and you just want to get a feel for whether you should, listen for the next couple minutes, and then when we move into spoilers, maybe hit pause and come back to it when you're done. And we'll be going chapter by chapter, so you could kind of like just come back to the podcast after every chapter if you wanted to. That might be a way to just consume this episode.
And why wouldn't you want to? Why wouldn't you want to go chapter
I
by
don't
chapter?
know.
It's the Book of Boba Fett, for goodness sakes.
My suggestion is when you hit play on chapter 1, hit play on the podcast and just listen to us talk over the show for the first time that you watch.
Wow, that makes me feel pressure when you say it like that. That
You
I'm
didn't
gonna be
know
part of
this,
somebody's
Mohsen.
experience.
This recording is going to take 3 hours long. So
Oh, it usually does with us.
we're going to
so I'm not
discuss in real time.
In real time. Sweet. And let's just go back and do the Mandalorian too.
All right. So broad thoughts on the Book of Boba Fett. No spoilers for Mandalorian. No spoilers for Boba Fett.
Ooh.
We're just talking Boba Fett, but like, what are your broad thoughts? Did you enjoy it? Did you generally enjoy it? Do you have any nitpicks that aren't spoiler specific?
Okay.
Anything
I'm gonna
like
do my
that?
best. That's a lot of landmines there.
All right.
I enjoyed some of the episodes,
Mhm.
some more than others. I thought it didn't feel like a book. And it didn't feel like the Book of Boba Fett lot of the time.
It felt a little bit like one of those choose your adventure books where you read a couple pages and then you're
100%.
like, oh, okay, now I skipped to like page 80. And you read a little bit and then it moves you back.
That is amazing. That is so accurate and sad at the same time, but that is exactly correct. Yes, it definitely felt like that. I will say without any spoilers, there are some characters that blew my mind that I was very excited to see that I did not expect to see. I loved how they kept it so quiet. It was a fun watch, but in my opinion, I am spoiled by The Mandalorian. And I think if The Mandalorian didn't exist, I would love Boba Fett more than I do. But up against The Mandalorian makes it really difficult. But I did enjoy it. And I actually enjoyed the episodes the second time around because after I watched it, I was like, you know what? I have to watch this again now that I know what to expect. And I actually enjoyed it more because it wasn't like, oh, they're doing this. Oh, they're doing this. You know, now I can just actually watch it and just enjoy it. And it was much better than I remembered it being the first time going episode by episode. So I actually enjoyed it much more. What are your thoughts without a spoiler?
See, when I watched it, I binged the first 6 episodes.
Okay.
And then watched the finale like a few nights later when it released. And
that's a lot to take in one shot.
I mean, they're 38-minute episodes, so it wasn't.
But what I mean is with all the storylines and stuff, to watch it in a binge fashion, that feels overwhelming. Actually.
Yeah, it was fine. I wasn't overwhelmed.
I'm glad you're okay, James. I'm just worried about you, you know? So I just got to check in with you once in a while.
And so I'm wondering if maybe my experience was a little different just because I didn't have to wait week to week on certain things.
Sure.
And I can see how like a lot of the first 3 episodes or so feels like a lot of setup, especially the first 2 feels like setup type of stuff. And but if you watch it in a binge like fashion, which it sounds like you did when you rewatched it, it kind of it flows way better because you're not having to wait a week between each episode.
But since it was fresh to you, how did the flow feel since you watched 6 episodes in a row? How did that did it feel like one cohesive book to you watching it? Because I can't relate, right? Because I went episode to episode, so I don't know how that would feel.
Well, the series definitely takes a turn like halfway through, right around episode 4 or so. And so it kind of becomes a different thing and then like reintegrates itself in a way. And so the first half feels like one movie almost when you watch it that way.
It does.
And then it's like you go and you watch an old movie and then
Wow.
you pick up where you left off.
People that have seen that will understand how brilliant that was right there. But people that haven't seen it will get it after they watch it. That's
Sure.
100% dead on.
So, so Boba Fett, I know he's like, a top tier character for you. And I enjoy Boba Fett, but he was never like the reason why I liked Star Wars. I'm not saying that's
Sure.
why you like Star Wars, but I know for some people, he's like by far their favorite Star Wars character, no doubt type of thing.
Sure.
And so the idea that we're going to get a little bit of an origin story on Boba Fett, which is what I thought this was going to be, I was down, right? There's like that cartoon from the Christmas special.
Oh my word, you're bringing that up. Yeah.
That's like the one thing that hasn't been completely erased from Star Wars history, right? Like
Right.
that's
Yep.
like that cartoon segment is the only thing that they claim is like still canon of some sort when it comes to Boba Fett.
Sure. Sure.
I mean, it's not a great sequence, but it's not near as bad as the rest of the Earth Day live action stuff in that special. So, so I thought it was going to be more about that stuff, like a combination of Boba Fett origin slash, what happens with Boba Fett on Tatooine post Mandalorian type of thing. And it's really not Boba Fett origin at all. It's more like post Jedi origin, like what happened to him
Yes.
after Jedi.
After the Starlight Pit, what happened?
Right. Yeah. And I know that there are books that have been written that I have not read that also deal in this history. I'm curious to know, have you read those or
I
know
read a
about them?
couple back in the day, but not enough to talk about them. But one of the things that I did expect, that they were going to kind of go in. I don't know if I can say this. I don't think this is a spoiler, but okay. So I'm not saying if this happens or it doesn't happen, but what I expected going into the Book of Boba Fett was a journey through the Mandalore experience, the destruction of Mandalore, the rebuilding of Mandalore. That's
Sure.
what I expected the Book of Boba Fett to be. I'm not gonna say if it is or isn't.
It's not. We can say it's not that. I mean, it's not
Spoiler.
that.
Right. It's not at all.
We're not saying what it is, but it's not that.
Yeah, it's definitely not that. But that's really what I expected because I knew a little bit about that, and I've always thought that would be an incredible movie. Like I still hope and pray that one day they make that movie. There's an element that's used in the Book of Boba Fett that is instrumental in the relaunch of Mandalore and even the destruction of Mandalore. And I just think that is such a great story that hasn't been told yet on live action or anything outside of like something that we would read. But your average fan might not even know it exists. And I think that is just such a strong storyline. It's already written. They just need to get the actors and adapt it to a movie, and it's good to go. So I'm hoping one day we get that.
Yeah. I'd be down for that as well. There's so many stories that they just, I mean, I feel like with Disney Plus, the Marvel shows are great, or they're fine.
Sure.
Some of them are great. Some of them are watchable at best.
Right.
I feel like one Star Wars show a year is not doing it for me. You know what I mean?
Well, we're getting 3 this year, right?
Are we?
Is it? Yeah, it's 3 because it's the Book of Boba Fett. Kenobi starts in May.
Okay.
And then after that in the fall, we're getting Mando. So we're getting 3 this year.
All right. I'll take 3 a year, but
I made your wish come true.
This whole 1 a year thing is
that's too much. That's not enough.
Doing it.
I agree with those gaps in between. I totally agree. Yeah. And I think they're doing it right now by doing the 3. And then hopefully, and then there's the Ahsoka one that's supposed to be, and then another one that I can't remember, but those are for 2023, I believe. But yeah, those would be great.
I'm into it. And I did like Mandalorian season 1 and Mandalorian season 2. Season 2 is better than season 3 for sure. But there's like a pattern to those episodes, to Mandalorian season 1 and season 2, that are very much like, go do this, talk to this person, that person tells you to go here, you go do that in the next episode, talk to this person, that person tells you to go here. It's like very formulaic to me.
It's a D&D movie.
Right. Whereas Book of Boba Fett kept you to one location and it was far less of that formula. And so I enjoyed that,
Yep.
even though, 2/3 of the way, you kind of lose track of the title character for a little while. And that I kind of wish they had stuck more to the title character.
Mhm.
But I didn't dislike what they did at the same time. It's just you've got 7 episodes with this title character. Can we dedicate more time to him like you did in the first couple episodes? Very much felt like his story in the first couple
Right.
episodes. And then by the end of it, he was sharing the story with a lot of characters.
A whole lot of characters that are setting up another show.
Right.
And that's what it felt like they were doing. And then what, like, to me, the biggest risk of even having Boba in Mandalorian, one of the, I mean, to have an iconic character like Boba Fett, who basically had 2 lines in a movie,
Mhm.
and then we never heard his voice ever before or after. And then we obviously see him as a little kid in the prequels, but we still don't know anything about what happens.
Mhm.
And to me, that was part of the allure of Boba Fett, is that we know nothing about this guy. So it makes him so much more interesting.
Mhm.
It's almost like a gunslinger that never talks. It's like, where's he going? What's he doing? Where do you get those chains from? It's like, and to me, that was the risk with the Book of Boba Fett, which I respected them taking that kind of a risk, because I certainly wouldn't have, just because that's what the character was to me. I don't want to know more, almost, you know what I mean? I want to have my own little backstory that I create. And that's one of the things that I thought was so cool about Jon Favreau, who isn't afraid to take risks. I mean, he's still the guy who invented the Marvel formula that has been so successful, and he's reinvented Star Wars. If he only did one of those things, he'd be considered a legend, and he's done both of those things. So I like what he was trying to do with Boba, and I think there's a part of me that feels like he's not done. There's a part of me that feels like he's learned from this, what worked and what didn't work, because there was a lot of great things that worked really well, and there were some things that didn't work as well for me anyway. So I wouldn't be surprised if he takes another swing at it and we hear that there's going to be a Book of Boba 2, and it's going to be a little bit more Boba centric, I think, than this was. I think this was like a lot of pressure to introduce characters that might be in Kenobi, that might be in Mando, the next season, and stuff like that. And I think now he's gonna, in my opinion, he's gonna be okay. Let's just do Boba right, and I think we can do that now that all this stuff has been set up and out of the way.
Yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi. So that TV show, wouldn't it have to be set like way before the current like Mandalorian Book of Boba Fett timeline? So I guess you could have characters, you just have to have earlier iterations of those characters.
And I don't know if it'll be early enough, like, or later enough that you'll notice a difference. I don't think there's too much of a gap in there. I don't think, right?
Well, like
Oh
it's
wait, no, there
definitely
would be.
pre everything A New Hope. If
You're
you've got a
right.
young
Yeah, you're
Obi-Wan.
right. You're right. That's actually very true. I didn't think of that.
I
That's
mean, you
very
could
true.
still have the same environment and, characters like Jabba or like I'm sure there's tons of characters that would have still
Yeah,
been around during that time.
but you're
Uh,
right. The human form would be, yeah, those would be those could really overlap. That's interesting. I didn't think of that, but you're right.
I think overall, though, the whole Western motif, the Tatooine-ness of it all, like that's stuff that I dig from the
Oh, love it.
Mandalorian stuff, and so we got a lot of that in this one. And yeah, I mean, this one's even more Western than anything Disney TV has given us in Star Wars land yet. So I dug all of that.
This is New Hope level of Western to me. It goes back to that to me.
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything as close to that since until this.
yeah. I feel like this creative team too is like pretty good at integrating things that maybe people who have only seen the movies don't really know a lot about. I think they've done
Mhm.
that well for the most part. And they tend to not do some of the silly things here and
Sure.
there. And then in this one, there were a couple silly things where I was like, really? Do we have to have shiny bikes in a desert? You know what I mean?
Spoiler alert.
That's not a spoiler.
I have a lot to talk about them for sure. The Vespa Brigade.
All right,
I have a
we'll
lot
go
to
into
talk
that.
But yeah, no, I agree. There weren't too many hokey things for sure. The one thing that I think Favreau has a hard time, like I thought they did a good job. Well, I don't know if they did a great job on introducing characters that diehards know, but your average fan has no idea.
Mhm.
And I only judge that by the amount of text I got, like, who is this, kind of text. And I would have to, kind of explain who these different characters are. So I don't, but I don't know if that's just fans wanting more information and it's still held out throughout the story. Like they didn't need the backstory stuff, maybe.
Mhm.
I don't know. But I thought it was pretty brave how many characters he brought. And we'll talk about this in detail, but I love some of the characters they brought because you don't even know this. But one of the characters they brought is top 3 to 5 for me, but they were never in a live action movie before. I've only known them from the comic books. And I love this one character in particular, which I'm sure you could figure out who it is, but
Is it the tall character?
it might be with dreads. It might be
Oh, that one. Okay.
that one.
I was thinking of the one with the hat, but the one with the dreads makes sense.
Oh, the one with the hat is amazing for sure, but he's not top 5 for me. But
Sure.
but yeah, this one is we'll talk more. But yeah, oh my, this one I lost my mind when it was on screen.
Sure.
I embarrassed myself, and I'm very glad I was home by myself when I saw that because it was a very high pitched noise that seemed to come out of my mouth when I saw him for the first time. So
You're glad
I
nobody
never
was
heard.
recording that?
I'm very happy. Yeah, very happy. I actually scared myself. I thought somebody else was in the house. I said, "What is that voice?" Then I realized it was me. So I'm okay.
All right. Final thoughts, spoiler free, for Book of Boba Fett. I mean, I normally we rank these things, but like if you're a Star Wars person, you're watching it, it doesn't really matter, right?
Exactly. No, exactly. You have to watch it. It's part of your bloodline.
And I would say like there's certainly things that you can nitpick about this or wish you got more of this or that. But I think overall, we know what really bad Star Wars looks like at this point.
Exactly.
And it doesn't fall in that category. You know what I mean? I don't care what
No.
people say. It might not have given you what you wanted, but it's not bad.
No, and just think like 3 years ago,
Mhm.
we would have begged for something like this and we would have worshiped it. Like,
Sure.
you know what I mean? So I'm just glad we get it. Was it the best? Was it perfect? No, but I love the fact that we get it.
Mhm.
And I love the fact that we get to be entertained and we get to see these characters come to screen. So I'll take it. I enjoyed it. Like I said, is it the best one? No, but it was their first attempt to do something that's pretty original. And I had a good time. And we'll talk about one particular director who proved that she is a megastar.
Sure.
She just I there's not many times where I see a director steal a show the way she does. And I don't want to give, obviously I said she, so you can probably figure it out. But yeah, I was so amazed at some of the different choices that Jon Favreau made with people.
Yep. I agree. All right. Enough
Whew,
jumping around.
that's stressful. Non-spoilers are stressful.
We are in spoiler territory. So like I said, if you've seen the show, listen on, and if you haven't, maybe come back to this later. We're gonna
And you
talk-
haven't. What's wrong with you if you haven't?
well,
what are you
I mean,
doing?
they might have just been waiting for it to be.
For
Like I said, I
what?
waited. So
James, just because you did it doesn't make it right.
you prefer I had watched it week to week?
Yes, and be on the edge of your seat like I was, waiting for
No.
for Wednesday to come around at midnight.
I
I'm
will
staying
say
up
that
way too late.
there was only we're in spoilers, by the way. So again, stop
cool.
listening if you don't want to hear this. There
Don't
was
stop listening.
like when Grogu comes back.
Wait, Grogu comes back?
Yes, Grogu. When Grogu comes back,
I missed that episode.
I was shocked that was not spoiled for me. Like the internet didn't light up, and I don't know why.
Consistently, like all these things that were released, you're absolutely right. None of these things were leaked, and I don't understand how.
Sure.
Like we knew when the Naboo starfighter was being built and she hollowed out the droid, pod, we knew what was coming, right?
You knew that? I didn't know that.
Oh my gosh, as soon as she said what he asked, about the droid pod, and she said, well, I didn't think you'd want a droid knowing you. And I was like, oh, that's Grogu's little house for sure. Yeah, I knew that right. I mean, that was, yeah. And I was just waiting for it. And then they did an even better job than I thought they were going to do, especially with that when he hit when he kept hitting the glass with the little ball because he wanted him to do the little turbo boost thing. Grogu makes me just want a kid. Sorry.
Let's start at the beginning.
Yes, sorry.
Chapter 1, titled Stranger in a Strange Land. This is directed by Robert Rodriguez, who directed like 2 other episodes this season. And this is the start of the story. You get a little bit of Boba. I think in this episode, he just gets caught by the Tusken Raiders, right? You like find him in the middle of the desert and he's disheveled, but you don't. Does the Sarlacc come in the second episode? I feel like
where he returns.
No, where they actually cut back to like the fact that he.
Oh, that's the first one. That's how it actually starts. Chapter 1 starts out with him in the Sarlacc pit.
Gotcha.
And he uses a flamethrower and stuff to get himself out, and he breathes with the stormtrooper's helmet to get some air, to get that push to get out. Yeah, that's at the very beginning, which that opening scene to me that was part of the problem because my expectations went so high because even artistically, they had a POV from his helmet seeing the sun for the first time when he breaks out of the Starlight Pit. And I'm like, okay, if they're going this far with POV camera angles, this thing is going to be insane. So, they had me. And I think that was part of the problem because it started out so strong, like that. I thought that opening scene was incredible.
Sure.
But when did Jawas have zero chill to them is what I don't understand. Like, they just disrobed a Mandalorian or who they thought was a Mandalorian, as he's laying there. Like, I don't know.
Well, they don't really care about anything other than scavenging, right? Isn't that pretty well?
I would be a little nervous walking up to Boba Fett, though, and taking his stuff off.
Well, I mean, he was practically dead. That's what they do. They pick the carcass.
That's nice, James.
I'm
so
just
you're saying you would totally do that, is what you're saying.
I'm just saying if you're a crow or what do they call those things? The birds that just eat dead vultures. Yeah, if you're a vulture, I mean, you see a lion dying in the desert. I don't know where
James, you're getting dark, James. You're getting dark, James.
They're not scared of the lion anymore. It's almost dead.
I guess that's fair. A lot of Animal Planet for you.
Yeah.
The one thing I thought was really cool. Did you catch the Jon Favreau homage to Iron Man in that opening scene when they put his armor on for the first time when he comes out of that little gel bathtub thingy? And he gets out, he sticks his arms out like this, and the droids put on his armor. And I was like, that's Jon Favreau having fun, back to Iron Man days. And I thought that was pretty cool. That made me smile kind of.
When I rewatch it, I'll have to watch that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. You'll definitely notice it. Now that I said it, you'll definitely notice it.
Sure. There's a little bit of like setting up that he's taken the throne from Boba Fett, but the majority of this episode is him escaping from the pit and him getting stripped of his armor, eventually being found by the Tusken Raiders, trying to escape, and then eventually saving a Tusken Raider child, which gains him some favor by the Tusken Raider clan.
Right.
I really love the Tusken Raider stuff because they've always been interesting characters that you always just assumed were like wild people. And I liked how they kept that element, but also gave them a culture for you to soak up a little bit and realize that like they are just not like insane humans who have wrapped themselves type of thing.
I totally agree. And I love that they're kind of ordered too, that they had, like the training and stuff like that. I thought was really cool. The one Tusken Raider who did I actually thought it was Ray Park at first. So she moved like Ray Park a little bit, and I had to look her up. And she's a female stunt woman, and she's incredible. She's such a likable character. Like she draws you in when she's training him and stuff. And I thought that was really cool. But yeah, the only I found it a little strange. You remember that scene with those like Mortal Kombat dudes?
Mm-hmm.
Remember that? I thought that was a little, that's when it started to go a little bit like, what are we doing? You know, because Boba having that much of a hard time with Mortal Kombat dudes kind of bothered me. And then he shoots one of them with one of his arm rockets. And then he tells Fennec, keep them alive or whatever. And I'm like, you just blew that dude up. And now you're telling her to keep people alive. Like, that's when stuff started to happen for me that I was like, what's going on? I'm not sure what's going on here. So, but that's one just thing I know. Maybe I'm being picky.
No, I mean, one thing this is a broader thought, but for some reason, like kid James, when he thought about Boba Fett, he thought of him as just kind of like a murderous mercenary who like had no opinion on anything other than does it make me money type of thing.
Right.
And then you watch the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian and they give you such strong backstory as to like the people who wear this armor have a specific code and they can be mercenaries, but they're, you know, not necessarily always that. And they do have like some kind of moral compass to them or honor system. Even if it's all like, what's the word? Transactional, really.
Right. Sure.
And so when Boba Fett in this show kind of shows a softer side here and there, at first I was confused by it. And then I was like, well, if you think back to Mandalorian, he's like this badass, you know, crazy fighter guy who falls in love with a little green thing. You know what I mean? Not in love, but you know what I mean? Like becomes like a father figure to this little green thing. Would like completely give his life for this thing, goes against his own people's code in order to protect this thing type of thing. So maybe Mandalorians do have a heart type of thing.
It's possible. Yeah. I hear what you're saying though. Like I never wanted to know that Boba Fett had veneers. Like I didn't need to know that part of it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that was the difference between Mando, because when we did see him without the helmet that one time, it was really dramatic. Like he didn't want to take that thing off, you know, and Boba's just like taking it off all the time. Like it's a baseball hat. But then we find out he's not really a Mandalorian, which is really confusing too now, that he's not a true Mandalorian. Boba.
Oh, really?
So,
I thought he was just like an outcast at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think that's both true. You know, but he's not part of the true Mandalorian clan. Like we'll talk about in later chapters, something that happens with Mando that kind of puts him in that similar situation. But yeah, that I agree that it's a little bit too much of the soft side of Boba. And what I didn't care for was that Fennec, you know, she's a great character, but I felt like she was Boba because she was calling most of the shots and Boba was like, okay, we'll do that. Or go get them. Okay, fine, go get them. You know, and I wanted to see Boba be more of the leader. Like if it's called the Book of Boba Fett, you know what I mean? If this was just Mandalorian, it wouldn't matter to me. But being the Book of Boba Fett, I really wanted Boba to kind of take charge and show that side of himself too, instead of, and I feel like he showed way too much of the soft side of Boba. And I think that struck me a little odd because that's a real, like, that's a knee jerk thing, right? Because we just saw him in Mandalorian wrecking shop. And now he's like, oh, I love all people. Where is this other animal that I can pet? You know, and it's like, wait a minute. Stop petting animals, Boba. You know, it's like.
No, I agree. They definitely softened the character a lot. I don't know if they were just scared to really pull the trigger on like an anti-hero character. Or I don't know. I mean, they could have very easily. I mean, I don't need Boba Fett to be murdering innocents or anything like that.
I do.
But it seems like, yeah, it doesn't seem like there's definitely times where he could have shown, some kind of physical power, intimidation, whatever. And at every turn, he rejects that. He's a little bit of like Boba Fett the monk at times.
That's right. Awesome. That's very true. Yeah.
Where he's just like, peace will bring us more prosperity. And you're just like, is this the guy who said he's only worth money to me alive or whatever he says? You know what I mean?
He's not worth anything dead to me.
Right.
And he says this to Darth Vader of all people.
Right. Yeah. So It's definitely like a little bit of a character switch, but it's also a guy who spent, however long in a sarlacc pit,
That'll do that to you.
and then out in the desert with these Tusken Raiders, and maybe the sun fried his brain or something.
Well, they have to walk everywhere apparently. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure the sun would fry their brain. And I didn't see any sunscreen, which concerns me. And I just don't understand why they're like walking so much or riding banthas. It's like there's land speeders all over the place. And we later find out there's these land speeder bike thingies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't understand why he's not taking those. He's walking everywhere. That must take forever to get anywhere. It really bothered me.
Yeah. Okay, that brings us to chapter 2, the Tribes of Tatooine.
Seth Green.
It's more Tusken Raider stuff, I would say, in general. Boba Fett gets in deeper with the Tusken Raider clan, and he helps them. Is this the train sequence one?
This is the trains, the spice train sequence.
Yeah, so he helps them shut down a spice train.
Yeah.
That is like a levitating train that goes through the desert. And evidently the Tusken Raiders were not sophisticated enough to be able to fight this thing. And so he teaches them how to ride speeder bikes and how to, like old Western style, just like take down this train as it's in motion. And as an action sequence, I really enjoyed the sequence itself. It's also like at least in season 2 of Mandalorian, we had a similar thing, like with the convoy. Do you remember that? Like at one point, there's like a sequence with a convoy where they're fighting on top of the ships that very much feels like an old Western train thing. We also had it in Solo. We had a sequence with a train.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Floating. Yeah, it feels like we've had a couple Star Wars train sequences. Yeah.
That's very true. Yeah. I didn't think about that. You're right.
So I enjoyed it, but I also kind of felt like we've done this recently. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would agree. But in fairness, I was very distracted for chapter 2. That's Steph Green who directed that one. And when I saw Black Cassandra on stage, on screen for the first time ever, from comic book to in front of me, and like you said, no leaks that Santi was going to be on. And then when he came around that corner with that, and the actor that plays him like embodied that swagger that I would think Santi would have. And the way he came around the corner and was just like glaring at everybody, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this character is in front of me right now. This is a character that has fought Luke Skywalker, Kenobi, has gone toe to toe with like Darth Vader. I mean, this is a bad dude. And to see him in live action. So everything else that happened in that episode, I know of, but I don't really know of, because I was still like, I don't know how many times I replayed when he walked onto the screen. I don't know how many times I replayed that until somebody made a GIF out of it, thank God, so I could stop. And it was just so amazing to see that character come to life. Oh,
right. And the character Mohsen's talking about is the giant Wookiee with dreads.
Yeah, called the Super Wookiee, I believe, by one of the Vespa buddies. They call him the Super Wookiee. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, short of episode 3? Is that the last time we saw a different Wookiee than just Chewbacca? Yeah,
that's correct.
Maybe there might have been some in Solo. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen that movie, but
I don't remember in Solo any other Wookiees.
Isn't there like a sequence where Han is helping? There's like other Wookiees with like in a jail.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yep. Yeah. They're in the background in a jail. Yep. You're absolutely right.
Right.
Wow. I need to see that movie again. That's a sleeper movie. It's way better than it gets. It gets hated on a lot, but I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed that Wookiee as well, but I had no like historical context. I didn't know he had like a deep history or anything.
Just straight war. But anyway, he's amazing.
Yeah. I thought he was cool. I also thought the Jabba twins were cool. That happens in this episode.
I like how one of them was playing with his food too. Like, I thought that was kind of like funny little touches that they had.
For sure.
Yeah. That was good.
And then they cap off the episode with him Star Trek movie 2 style with the bug up the nose, and then it goes out to
Oh, the lizard. Yeah.
yeah, the lizard up the nose, goes out into the desert, has a psychedelic session, and then comes back with a piece of wood that they forge into a gaff.
Yeah. I repressed that actually. Now that you brought it all back. Yeah. And then seeing that lizard come out and into the case that the guy had, a little cage.
Mm-hmm.
How many people has that lizard been in? Like,
I don't know.
Sanitize the lizard?
That was one of those things where I'm like, I wonder if that's like something that was described in a book, or did they come up with that for the TV show? And if they came up with that for the TV show, why? Like, just send him out into the desert and tell him to go get a piece of wood. Like, what does the little lizard have anything to do with anything?
There has to be something historically that there is a group of people who did something like that. There has to be. Because you can't make who's making that up? A lizard of all things.
Right.
Who's making that up? So yeah.
There's probably some Tusken Raider book that you and I are not aware of that covers that.
True. I may not have read this one, but that's one thing that disturbed me about this episode. The Tusken Raiders, I mean, I'm not well versed, but I feel like they swore a lot. Like, I feel like I heard a lot of Tusken Raider swear words. And I was just like, this is a TV show. Like, those of us that know Tusken,
all right,
that's a little jarring. So yeah,
I was offended.
I can imagine. I know you're sensitive that way. And I was worried about you when I heard that. I was like, James is not going to like this. Yeah.
But I enjoyed this episode. I mean, it was more, it was about Boba Fett.
It was, but this one could have been combined with one. Like, they could have trimmed some of one and stuffed this in there. I think they could have made this like a 10-minute episode.
Sure.
And like stuffed it with one. And I think one would have been amazing with the greatest hits of 2. But
I mean, let's be honest. They could have made 2 episodes and made each of them an hour and a half long.
That's
know what I mean?
It's definitely
basically true. 2 stories.
It's
combined.
definitely true. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I'll give that to you.
I don't think you could have gotten away with that with Mandalorian though, because of the formulaic nature of each episode. But with this one, I think you could have gotten away with that, just combining them into longer episodes. But then they wouldn't get the week-to-week buzz that they count on. All right, chapter 3, The Streets of Mos Espa, another episode directed by Robert Rodriguez. This one introduces us to the biker gang that Boba Fett hires for protection to be a part of his gang, basically. It's also the episode where the Jabba twins gift Boba Fett a Rancor.
Yep.
Trained by the one and only Danny Trejo, which is really the only, like, I don't know if Danny Trejo was a cameo, but it was the only, it seems like in Mandalorian, there were 1 or 2 people that you just did not expect to be in that show.
Sure.
And in this one, it was Danny Trejo, who oddly enough, you would totally expect to be on Tatooine. Like
and anything Robert Rodriguez does, I mean,
for sure.
He's going to be in it.
I had not made that connection, but yes, you're right.
And this is a perfect role for him, because I could totally see him like in real life. Like, that's what he does. He just babysits Rancors. I mean, I could totally see that.
Sure.
No problem at all.
He makes B movies, and then on the side, he trains Rancors.
Right. You got to keep, absolutely, no doubt.
I don't remember much happening in this episode other than those 2 things.
The biggest thing for me was, and this bothered me when, so the episode starts out, and I don't know why they keep starting out with Boba bathing in his little gel capsule, but this time Black Chrysanthemum comes in and opens it up and pulls him out. Okay, so just a little backstory for those that don't know who he is. This is a character that, without any sedation, they didn't put him under. They replaced his knuckles with basically vibranium, right? I know I'm crossing my Marvel and Star Wars, but that's basically what it is, right?
Sure.
And they did that without anesthesia or anything. So this is a bad dude. And this is a dude that's not very happy. So the fact that he had Boba in his grasp, and Boba didn't snap into 10 pieces, and then one of the little Vespa people comes up with like a Gerber multi-tool knife and stabs him, like that would do nothing to Santi. right? He wouldn't even feel that. And then he's like, "Arr!" And all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, people. And then you have the swine dudes who come over and they fight him.
Right.
This is a bad dude. Like there's no one that can match him. And short of Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker walking into the room, nobody has a chance, right? And so they managed to capture him because he doesn't realize that he's standing on top of a crate that opens, because of course he doesn't understand this, right? He was only a warrior for like a decade, so he doesn't know trapdoors. And then he falls in and they trap him. Somehow they have handcuffs on him. I don't know how they pulled that off, but okay, they got handcuffs on. So, okay. So I was a little distracted by Vespa Girl being able to use a multi-tool and take down Black Cassandra, because that's so.
It felt unrealistic to you.
There's unrealistic and there's what, and that was a what to me. Like the opening was amazing because you felt that. Like I felt when he picked up Boba Fett, that was incredible. And you could see in Boba Fett's face, like he was freaking out. Like that part was amazing until the multi-tool knife. It was a great scene. But then they have to keep the show going. So I get it, but that's the best they can come up with.
Yeah, I barely remember that sequence. Like I remember him dropping into the pit.
Right.
I remember the fight a little bit. I think I pinged harder on the Gamorrean guards than you did. You were freaking out over the Wookiee, and I was like, I can't believe Gamorrean guards are back in the story.
Well, that's true. That's my swine boys.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when he dropped into the Rancor pit and there was nothing in there, it was like, oh yeah, because there's no Rancor anymore.
Right. Not yet, anyway.
And then they resolved that by the end of the episode.
They do indeed. They do indeed. And then when Black Santa, when he runs off, when Boba lets him go, when the hut, they have the gift and they they say you can do whatever you want with them, and he lets him go. And then when he starts running, Black Cassandra is not running anywhere. He's just walking and snarling. That's what he does. He doesn't run. And then I saw him run. I was like, what's happening? First of all, why would he run? It's the desert. It's hot. He's a 8-foot Wookiee. He's going to get warm, so why would he run? He's got dreadlocks and everything. So I was a little concerned for his health at that point too.
Have you ever been to the beach?
I have once or twice. Yeah.
If you ever it's really hot outside and you step out onto the sand.
Right.
It's hot, man. You got to run.
So you're saying for his feet,
he's on a planet of sand, so he has to run everywhere.
You know what? Wow, that's a good point, James. I didn't even think of that. I'm sure that's what Jon Favreau had in mind. Well done.
Yeah,
definitely true.
I think they should bring you on as a chrysanthemum. What do you call him?
Could we call it a specialist?
Sure, specialist or advisor. Advisor. That's what I was looking for.
Yes, I would agree. Jon Favreau. I can be available late in the afternoon on Fridays and Saturdays, but I have to be home by Sunday.
Sure,
but
he can only use you on Sunday.
Well, no, I got church on Sunday. Just use me on Saturdays.
God can wait, right? I mean, how long is this going to be in production?
Fair enough. Okay, we'll leave that one there.
All right. Chapter 4, The Gathering. Wait. Before we leave chapter 3.
What happened?
I mean, the biker gang is...
No, the Vespa crew. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. The Vespa crew. It's the characters themselves I didn't have a problem with. Like the cyborgness and stuff like that. That didn't really bother me. It felt like new Star Wars, not old Star Wars for sure. But what I didn't... And I don't even dislike the bikes themselves. I just don't understand why they didn't look like they were actually on Tatooine. Like they were just too clean. Everybody else is dirty because it's the desert. Right. And I feel like their bikes should have looked like bikes that you wanted to keep clean, but like you were on a desert. And so at least the bottom half of them are still dirty or something like that. I don't know.
She had a detail shop.
Yeah.
She had a detail shop. You can see it in the back on one of the scenes, and she was buffing out her bikes. I have no idea. I'm totally making it up.
I don't remember that, but I was gonna give you the benefit of the doubt.
They're all primary colors, which makes no sense because that paint's gonna fade at the very least, right? Unless that's some kind of super paint. And they just, I don't know. I know you didn't have a problem with them, but I didn't think they were necessary. Like, if I look at them, like they wanted them for muscle. If that's your muscle that you're bringing to me, like I feel really good about my odds. There's 5 of them, and I still feel really good about my odds. Like
Sure.
the one dude with the eye thing that he paid for, like I'm like, okay, so I'll take that out first, And it's like I just didn't understand why they had to have them. It felt like Star Wars went to EDC concert for a weekend, and that was them. And it's like, why are they? I don't know why they're here, but
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, is that a cartoon thing? Is that like a Star Wars cartoon thing? Are they like
No,
carryovers from somewhere else, or is that original to this show?
nothing that I know of.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know of anything with them.
The designs, specifically the bikes, reminded me a lot of like prequel Star Wars, like where
Sure.
like the ships were high gloss instead of distressed and battle worn,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Right.
Um, I kind of feel like it would make more sense in a world where we had already had a representation of like with like the land speeder, right? Like Luke's land speeder.
Right.
You would think that if there was a culture of like people having nice land speeders that they kept clean, that there would be some example of that so far in the series.
Sure.
But really, there
Yeah.
isn't. It's just these people have the bikes that are spotless. And even later on, when they get involved in the action, they continue to be spotless. It was just like,
Yeah.
I don't get why this is here. It seemed,
Yeah.
like I said, the Favreau group seems to not do things that are just kind of silly. They're inconsequential, but they're silly. That one felt
Right.
silly to me.
No, I 100% agree with you. I couldn't figure that out. I was waiting for more from them, and then they didn't give me more, and I didn't really understand that. I haven't heard him speak about them, but I would love to hear his take, like on them, like why he had them in there, and if there is, like you said, maybe there's a storyline that I just don't know of,
Mhm.
where there's a Vespa crew that goes around, protecting people in Tatooine. I have no idea,
Sure.
but yeah, I wasn't feeling them too much.
All right, chapter 4, The Gathering Storm.
Yes.
This is kind of the last episode where we're with Boba Fett solo, well, with Boba Fett and his crew. The story doesn't expand until episode 5, but in episode 4, Boba Fett uh it rewinds to pre-Jabba, sorry, post-Jabba, pre-Boba Fett, and it
Right.
tells the story of him getting his ship back. Then him trying to get his armor back from the Sarlacc pit. What else happened in this episode? I think that was most of it.
Yeah, you got most of it. And then there was that fight with the cook that was in
Remind me.
there.
Fight with the cook.
Yeah, the cook that was like a General Grievous. When they went into that, he kept trying to get into that. I can't remember whose lair that was. And then they finally managed to get in, and they got into the kitchen, and the cook turned into General Grievous with the knives.
Oh yeah. There was a robot that was cooking. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but really not much of consequence other than explaining like where his ship went, basically.
Right.
And the fact that his armor was not going to be found in the Sarlacc pit.
And there's one other part. This is kind of the origin story of Finnick, right? Like she comes and poof, poof. And then he takes her, and then she gets abs of vibranium at this EDM club.
Mod shop, they called it.
Yeah. Okay. Mod shop. Nice catch. Nice mod shop. So yeah, that was the other thing that happened.
Which is kind of like a tattoo parlor for cybernetic parts.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess.
Exactly.
But this probably is the episode that is the least memorable for me. And like, just, I know some people are really into Fennec, and she's perfectly fine, but I'm not sure I needed a whole segment on why she's powerful or even loyal to Boba Fett. Like, I'm not sure I cared up until that moment.
I feel like they could have done that during that whole lizard thing and done that in like maybe 10 seconds, and we would have gotten it. They could have done that in another way. I don't think they needed to dedicate. And then what I didn't understand, I'm going to call the ship the name it is, which is Slave One. I know they're trying to stop using that name for whatever reason, but it's Slave One. And I don't understand that part either because, spoiler alert, we don't really see the ship again.
Mhm.
So what was the point? And then I'm concerned about Slave One because I think we have an engineering problem with Slave One because Slave One is on the ground and he has to crawl and he has to go like this. Like, why can't they make that ship stand up so that he can just walk onto the ship? Why does he have to crawl into the ship and then lay down and then pilot it? You know what
And
I
then
mean?
take off, and then he's sitting in normal.
Yeah, then he's straight up. Yeah, there's an engineering issue with Slave One.
Hmm.
There needs to be like a mechanism or a bladder that kind of rotates or something,
Mhm.
you know, and then so the ship can do its thing. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. There's an engineering flaw there that I need to talk to Jon Favreau about. I didn't like it.
Well, I think he's just continuing what was done. It's not like Jon Favreau was responsible for that design.
No, Jon Favreau is totally responsible for that design, and I want him to fix it. He can fix everything. He fixed Marvel. He can fix this.
Back in 1979, he didn't take care of it.
Right,
So,
he did not. He might have been 5 or something like that, but he still didn't take care of it. So get
Sure.
on it. It's been enough time. And,
Okay.
And yeah, go ahead.
That brings us to chapter 5, Return of the
Yes.
Mandalorian.
Oh, hallelujah.
Is this your favorite episode? Is that the vibe I'm getting?
Oh, no question. Yeah.
Okay. This one
This
was
had so much.
directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who directed at
Best
least
director.
1 or 2 episodes in season 2 of Mandalorian. Maybe
Yeah.
she had one in season 1. I don't remember.
I think she had one in season 1. Yeah. She was the part of the original crew for sure.
Okay. And this is where the series takes a turn from focusing on Boba Fett to, I mean, chapter 5, almost the entire episode is Mandalorian. It's basically like Mandalorian season 2, episode 9 or 8 or whatever the last episode was. And you follow him as he is trying to find a Mandalorian hideout, and he gets there and he's hanging out with his fellow Mandalorians and talking shop, and then they find out that he well, they want to give him something to do, right? And he's like, I still need to go find Grogu or something. He he loves the kid. He's got to make sure he's okay.
Sure.
Leaving him in the hands of Luke from season 2 of Mandalorian, I guess he felt okay about that in the moment, but then later on was like, maybe he's not okay.
I mean, he is part droid with his hand, so Mando has a thing with droids.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Now, what?
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, hit me.
What I loved what you were talking about, like he has to find the Mandalorian group or whatever. What I love is I feel like I compare the Mandalorians like backstory almost like John Wick. It's like there's so many things that I want answers to, like the hotel and all the other things that are in John Wick. And that's how I feel about the Mandalorian crew. There's so many things. Like I want a whole show on them, like that backstory and everything. Like I'm fascinated by the Armorer. I think she is one of the coolest characters, the voice and everything. And how she is in this, I don't want to give it away because I know you're giving a synopsis of this, but like how she is in this episode, I think is incredible. And she's such like the heartbeat of a lot of the stories when she's in them. And I just think she's such a powerful character.
Yeah, I mean, she definitely represents the honor behind the ideals of Mandalorians. You know what I mean? Like the type of thing where that's all they have to cling to at this point because they're a race that was nearly decimated type of thing. And so I like the idea that she's pretty strict about that honor code.
She does not play.
That's for sure. In this episode, they kind of question whether Mandalorian earned the Darksaber. Like in a roundabout way. They're like, are you sure you won that in battle? You know what I mean?
Well, and that was because of how dirty, I can't remember the Mandalorian that had it before him. I can't remember her name now. but how dirty she got it, remember?
Oh yeah.
Because she didn't get it the honorable way. So I think that's part of why they questioned it too, because they're like, we got some shadiness going on here. Were you part of that? You know, like Fennec, right? No, not Fennec. I can't remember her name.
No, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
So I felt like that was part of why she asked too. Like, because she asked a lot of questions, which I'm sure you'll get into, you know, that were, like you said, she really represents Mandalore and the way that they honor their spirituality, you know, in a really intense way. She's hardcore.
Yeah. So they take Mandalorian's spear and melt it down into a chainmail jacket for Grogu.
But why do they do that? This is the part that I thought was so cool.
Why
is
do they
that
do
she said because Mandalorians make armor for protection. So it was, the spear was putting Mandalorians in danger, having an offensive weapon that could actually hurt a Mandalorian. That's why she was like, this shouldn't exist. And I thought that was interesting because she was going to melt it down anyway. And then she asked him, well, you know, what do you want it to be or whatever? And then that's when he said that. And I thought that part was really cool because she said, we only make weapons for defense. We don't make weapons for offensive reasons. And I thought that was cool.
Out of that metal.
Out of that metal, yes.
Right.
That's like their vibranium, yeah.
Yeah. They'll still make wrist rockets and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they'll still wreak havoc and kill people. Just not that spear. That spear was scary.
What's the name of the metal called? I forget the name of it.
Beskar, right?
Beskar? Yeah, Beskar steel, I think is what they call it.
Yeah.
Okay. So in the meantime, they're melting down. They're making the chainmail coat for Grogu, and the main Mandalorian chick is like, "Oh, by the way, have you ever taken off your helmet?"
I love how he's like, "If I just freeze, maybe she won't realize I didn't answer the question."
Right. and then of course he did in Mandalorian, and so he tells him he did, and he gets shunned, outcast.
Well, but he does. There's one way to find redemption, though.
Really? I don't remember that. What was it?
Yeah, she says there's only one way to find redemption, and that's in the living waters behind the mines of Mandalore. And he says, well, I thought all the mines were destroyed. And she says, this is the way. So now we know what his next mission is going to be. He's got to find those living waters behind the mines of Mandalore somehow.
Interesting. So you think that's what season 3 is going to focus on? Is him?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
At least in the beginning, is him trying to,
I think so, because he's going to want redemption. And like one of the things, first, I think Dallas Bryce Howard is an amazing director. I've thought that for a while. And anything that I've seen her do, I think is amazing. What she does, and I don't understand how she does this, it's a combination of her and Pascal, how they're able to communicate emotion through this helmet. Like, I feel like Mandalorian does it so well. Boba did it in one chapter that we'll get to, but normally it's Mando that is really the only one that can communicate emotion. And I feel like I'm looking at this blank shield, but I understand the emotion he's having without music. And I still don't understand how they do that. I just don't get how she's able to capture that so well. And then one of the things about this episode that I thought was so interesting in the beginning, we already passed that part. In the opening sequence, first of all, the silhouette of Mando and then playing his theme was such a cool way to reintroduce him, right? I just thought. And then isn't it interesting that his character became what we thought Boba was? I mean, he literally split a dude in half.
Right.
Like, I just thought it was so interesting how he came off so violent compared to Boba, who's supposed to be the most violent dude ever. Like, I thought that was kind of interesting for the opening scene of reintroducing Mando. I'm like, wait a minute, Mando's a way better dude than Boba is, and it kind of like, it took a little bit away from Boba, I felt, because it was like, wow, that's interesting. I didn't think that Mando would be the more violent, but, and I thought that was a pretty violent scene for a Disney Plus show, cut the dude in half.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of wish they had done more to explain or justify why Boba Fett has taken a chill pill. You know what
I
I mean?
agree. Yeah, I totally
Like if
agree.
I don't know what was missing. It just felt like there was no real explanation as to why, whether there was an attitude change somewhere in here. The Sarlacc pit did it to him, or I mean,
Yeah,
there's a little bit of like, I don't want to work for bad people anymore, or they're just going to screw you. You know what I mean? Like, I
sure.
don't want to work for people who are just going to screw me in the end type of language. Between him and Fennec, there's like a lot of discussion about why they're not just taking jobs and, bounty hunting anymore. Um, but it doesn't feel like enough to explain why he's all peace and love all of a sudden.
I agree. And the only thing I thought was, everybody thinks he's dead, right? So I was like, is he just playing low key so that people still think he's dead? Because unless he's wrecking shop, people are going to be like, well, that's not Boba. That's like that one deputy wearing his armor. That's not really him. That's just his armor. I thought that at first. And then in this episode, he goes around telling everybody his name. He says, do you know who I am? Like, I'm Boba Fett, and I'm like, what? Okay, so now I'm confused. You either
Right.
and then in the same episode, he said something like, "There's value in people thinking I'm dead," but you just told like 10 people, "Do you know who I am? I'm Boba Fett." Like I don't understand what you're doing now.
Right.
And I think to me that's what it was, just kind of confusing with Boba. Like to your point, like okay, so every time I think I know why he's being like non-Boba, like rated G Boba, he does something that makes me even more confused than I was the first time. So I don't really know that. I don't think that was conveyed very well. I agree with you 100%. It wasn't.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, that's again, this particular chapter is the first one where it's kind of like it's not really about Boba Fett at all. I mean, it's a
Not even a little
Mandalorian
bit.
episode, 100%. And I don't know
Absolutely.
if they just got cold feet and they were like, "Look, we can't go 2 years without a Mandalorian episode, so we got to get Baby Yoda on the screen somehow, some way, right? Because
We got to save this show.
that's what worked in season 1 and season 2 of Mandalorian. He's got to show up in this, otherwise we are leaving stuff on the table."
It totally felt like that. It totally felt like they're in season 3 or 4 of Mandalorian. Can't remember what's coming out. Is it 3 or 4?
3.
3. So it felt like they were like, what episodes do we have done for season 3? What episodes? Right. Oh, we have 1 done. Okay, let's just bring that over. That's exactly
can we work that script into here somewhere?
Yeah, it's exactly what it felt like. How much of it is done, and can we do it? Yeah, right. Because it was all Boba, and I mean it was all Mando, and it was a great Mando episode. Like the Night of 1,000 Tears. Yes, can I please have that series? Sure. Like, when they had Mandalore being destroyed by the Empire, their bombers and all that stuff. That looked like Terminator to me. And I want 3 years before that and then 3 years after that in a series, please. There's my 3 seasons right there. Because that just looks so cool. And effects wise, like I was surprised they spent that much on that. You know what I mean? Unless that was footage from something else, like that looked really good, I thought.
No, I think they put a lot of money in these shows for sure.
Yeah, I thought that was intense. Like I want to see how Mandalore was risen. I also want to see what's that Mandalorian Jedi? Can't remember his name. That had the dark saber at first.
I don't know.
Shoot, I can't remember his name. Anyway, Tar Vizsla. He's the one he was a Jedi also, and he had the dark saber, and he was in a Mandalorian garb. So like I would love to see him. Can you imagine seeing a Mandalorian Jedi?
Sure.
I don't think I can handle that. Yeah. I think I need a nap before I watch that because that sounds incredible.
I would be shocked if they worked that in at some point.
Oh, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Also in this episode, the Razor's Crest that was destroyed at the end of Mandalorian season 2, right?
Correct.
So in this one, he gets a new ship. It's an old Naboo starfighter.
N1, yes.
Right. The yellow one. That's not yellow in this version, I don't think. Right?
And again, that goes with your Vespa thing. This was the opposite of the Vespa. because it was all shiny and stuff, and then he dulled it all up. And he
Right.
made it like, man, yeah.
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 And they put like modifications on it that made it look like the type of thing you'd see from on Tatooine.
Totally. And it
Yeah.
was definitely, I mean, Toretto was in the background helping him he was working on his charger too back there.
Sure.
And it felt like Fast and Furious. Like even him helping build it, I thought, and then that Pelly character, like she's amazing, I feel. Like she's great comedy relief. And she's great, like the way she plays off Amando, I thought was really funny.
Sure.
And she was like, sure, we can get that part, you know, and all that stuff. And I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was pretty fun.
Yeah. I could take or leave her character, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Sometimes it's fine. Sometimes it could just be half the amount of time she's in the show. I'd be perfectly fine with it.
That's fair. I had a soft spot for her when she said she dated a Jawa. When she said they're furry, I was like, okay, I could watch a show with just her. She cracks me up. She's just funny. I think she's great.
Sure.
I think she's great.
Okay, so the end of this episode, Boba Fett asks who does he ask? He asks the Mandalorian for help. Who does he ask for help?
Who does he ask for help?
The Mandalorian basically is like, I'm gonna help you, but I have to go find Grogu first.
Oh yeah, Boba asks and he also gets the help of that deputy dude.
Right.
Right. And then he says, and then Boba or Fennec actually asks him to help. And he says, yeah, but I gotta go see a friend first.
Right. Which means he has to go find Grogu.
Exactly. And now he's got the cool little starfighter to go do it. And then you caught that when the X-Wings pull him over, when he gives the one of my favorite things, like a friend of mine, like I was so excited because I have another character, you know, and everybody's like, oh, you're always about Batman. And then I have another character in Star Wars that I'm so excited about, Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've had multiple friends ruin that for me because they said, of course you like him. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, he's Batman for Star Wars. And it totally ruined it because that's exactly what Mandalorian is. And it's ruined now for me. But one of the things that I thought was so true to his character, he's sitting in the ship and starting it up for the first time. And he's apprehensive because he's like, it didn't start up right away. And she's like, well, give it some juice, you know, whatever. And then he starts it up and she says, take it for a spin. And he says, well, shouldn't we run diagnostics first? Like, I thought that was like so true to the Mandalorian character. You know, he doesn't want to like just take a chance and fly this thing. Can we run diagnostics, please? Like, I just thought that was so funny and true to the character. And then, of course, him going through Beggar's Canyon, and then there's a WAP rat that jumps off, you know, like an homage to Luke Skywalker, I thought was cool. And then when the two X-Wing fighters pull him over, I don't know how you pull people over in space, but whatever.
Sure.
I actually read that the main actor, the dude that wanted like all his information,
mm-hmm.
is the guy who plays Luke Skywalker in The Mandalorian. He's the body double for Luke Skywalker. Which I thought was kind of interesting. Yeah.
Crazy. A lot more happened in that episode than I remembered. I need to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah, that was jam-packed. Dallas Bryce Howard. And what was amazing was the pacing of the episode to sneak all that in, because they even have the TSA scene, which I thought was incredible, where the Star Tours droid makes him check in all his weapons because he goes to the metal detector and sets it off.
Sure.
And like that scene was so well done. Like I thought for sure 10 things are going to be missing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and then she fooled me because the way she shot it, I thought everything's going to be missing. He opens it up and it's all there. And just the look that he gives the Star Tours dude, you know, the droid is hilarious because he's like, it better be, you know, kind of look. And I just thought that little scene, like normally I'd be like, they don't need that scene in there, but it was actually so good. You know, it was so well done. But that's Dallas Bryce Howard. I just think she makes almost anything interesting the way she shoots it.
Sure.
So anyway, the way she directs it.
All right. That moves us into chapter 6, which again is a lot of non-Boba Fett stuff, but good stuff for sure. This one's From the Desert Comes a Stranger. This one directed by Dave Filoni, who had a big hand in Mandalorian season 2 and certainly is like known as the godfather of Star Wars modern Star
Ooh.
Wars cartoons, basically,
No doubt. Yeah,
or
no
animated
doubt.
stuff.
It's made the transition well.
Yeah, in chapter 6, this is the episode where Grogu officially is back, aka Baby Yoda, also making an appearance, fresh off of Mandalorian, the last episode of season 2. Luke shows up. He's training Grogu on some planet. I didn't catch what planet they were on.
It's
But
Dagobah. Dagobah.
that's Dagobah?
Yeah, I think that's Dagobah. I'm pretty sure.
Didn't look like
let me fact
Dagobah.
check. I'll fact check while we're talking.
I mean, it didn't look like Yoda's Dagobah. Maybe it.
Oh, well, sure. Maybe Luke planted some trees and spruced it up a little bit. I don't know.
Or it's like a different spot on Dagobah.
It
That's
could
possible
be.
too.
It could be.
So the Mandalorian visits there. He sees that they're building a Jedi training center, which I think is the same training center that gets destroyed later, right? Later on in the
Yes,
series.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I just fact checked it as Dagobah.
Okay. Yeah, it's just like a very different version of it.
Yeah, it's very eerie and nice and light for sure. A lot of sunshine.
So the Mandalorian goes there, sees the training facility, then sees Grogu happy, I guess, on some level, being trained by Luke, and has
Good feelings
second
about
thoughts because what's her name? Rosario Dawson. What's her character's
Yeah.
name?
With an A.
Just
Ahsoka. Good job.
Ahsoka's there, and she's like, she gets in his ear and she's like, "Do you really want to ruin this for him? Look how peaceful he is," type of thing.
And I love the dialogue where he says, "But I came all this way."
Right.
Like, it was just so real. It was like, yeah, I know that that's what's best for him, but I came all this way. Can't I just, he's right there.
Right.
Can I just say hello? Like, it was just so real and natural. I thought it was so good. Yeah.
And then he leaves the chainmail shirt that he made out of the Beskin steel for the kid.
Now, James, I want you to be very honest with me.
Sure.
Did you shed a tear in that moment?
No.
Be true to me, James.
I absolutely would tell you. I admit to crying on this podcast all the time. So it's not a big deal for me to say I teared up at something. I did not tear up about that at all.
Oh, that hit me.
Did it really?
Yeah, seeing that little shirt, and he's so close, and he just wanted to give it to him to say hello, and he looked out for Grogu before he looked out for himself, and it's just a beautiful moment.
It was a nice moment. I'm not saying it wasn't a nice moment.
No, you're saying it wasn't a nice moment. You didn't even shed a tear.
I'm saying
I shed 1,000 tears.
Yeah, it didn't work for me on that level, but I wasn't looking for it to work for me on that level. I did think it was nice,
Yeah.
but again, I'm fine with them giving these guys a heart, but it's a little much for these characters.
That's his Grogu.
No, I get it, but it'd be one thing if he left him in a bad situation, but he literally let the kid leave like not that long ago.
He did, but that's the ultimate sign of love, when you can just let something go for the betterment of him or her.
But that's the thing. He didn't let him go, right? He let Luke take him at the end of Mandalorian. And then like 30 days later was like, "Oh, no, this kid, he needs me." And
he needs his shirt.
And then he went so far, made him a shirt, so far. And then once he got there, he's like, "Oh, I was wrong. He doesn't need me."
That's got to be a horrible feeling,
I guess.
To think that he's not needed. That he found his purpose in life.
Sure.
And now he's not, all he was doing was killing people before. And now it's like Tin Man, he found a heart, and then.
Sure. So maybe that's like a Mandalorian's worst thing to have happen to them, is for them to find a purpose, because
like a Jedi, right? That's what they say to Jedis.
Mandalorian found a purpose. It made him soft. Boba Fett found a purpose, made him soft.
What's Boba Fett's purpose?
Take over for Jabba and rule with peace.
Yeah, well, then that was a shame.
Peace and
totally
respect.
Not worth it. Yeah. That's right. It's totally not worth it. I agree. All right, cold-hearted dude.
Yeah. So the Mandalorian leaves without letting Grogu know that he was there, and then to finish off that part of the storyline, Grogu is presented a choice
Oh,
by Luke. Either he takes Yoda's lightsaber, which who knows where they found that, who takes Yoda's lightsaber, or he takes the chainmail. And I guess if he takes the chainmail, then he can't get trained as a Jedi or something like that. I don't know.
yeah, that's what he says. You can't have this. You can't be distracted.
Mhm.
And how heartbreaking to see little Grogu looking at the two, and he was like, he saw the shirt, and he was like, eh, and then he saw the lightsaber, and Luke turned it on. And he was like, eh, the poor thing doesn't know what to do. That's heartbreaking, James. This is some serious storylines.
I mean, is it heartbreaking? I mean,
yes.
here's a little lightsaber of a guy you've never known, or
Right, but
here's the chainmail from the guy that you recently saw as a father figure and have great love for.
so
Not much of
cool,
a
James.
choice, right?
It's a choice between your past and your heart versus your potential future. How does one choose, James? You
But
can
he's a
only
little
choose
kid.
one.
He's always gonna go.
He's 50 years old, James.
But he's still a kid, right?
He's 50.
Right, but he has the irrationality of a child.
I don't know about
He's a
that.
slow grower.
Well, he's a slow grower. I give you that. But I think at 50, he knows he's choosing between his past and his potential future. How do you choose one? Come on, James. Have a heart.
I'm
Goodness
just
gracious.
saying.
Tin
If I
Man.
was Luke and I actually wanted to train him, I wouldn't have given him the choice because he was never going to pick the lightsaber.
You would have just told him to leave?
No, I would have said, just wouldn't have told him about the chainmail.
You would have hid the chainmail.
Yeah, train him
just
as a
kept training
Jedi.
him?
Yeah.
Wow, you are hardcore. No wonder you have that beard. You're a true Jedi. Goodness gracious.
I'm just saying. No, I mean, it fits with the Jedi ethos that, like, you have to choose your path and
Oh.
stuff like that. I get it. I know why they made the decisions they
All
made.
right, good. As long
I'm
as you
just
get it.
saying, as a viewer, it wasn't shocking to me that he didn't choose the lightsaber of the guy he'd never met.
Spoiler alert. We're not on that chapter yet.
I know, but in theory, people have seen all this.
Okay, all right. Fair enough.
Maybe.
I'm not
The
sure.
other thing that happens in this episode, I mean, that's the gist. That's the
Right.
really
You
important.
covered
stuff
that
about
well. You
chapter
covered that
6.
well.
The other thing that happens in this episode is that Cad Bane shows up, who's like this Westernish sharpshooter guy with blue face, really tall, and he shows up to what do they call it? Freedom Village or something?
Yeah, Freedom Land, I think it is.
Freedom Land, Independence Zone. I don't
That's
remember.
right. I don't know. 4th of July, something. I don't know.
He shows up to the town from Mandalorian 2, and well, what's his name is there? The sheriff,
The deputy, yeah.
the marshal, I think they call
The
him.
marshal. Yes, you're right.
Right, who is what's that guy's name? The actor Timothy Oliphant.
Tim, yeah, that guy's awesome.
Yeah, so Timothy Oliphant, aka the marshal, is there, and he Cad Bane basically shoots him because he won't be neutral in the upcoming spice war.
That voice, though. That was the voice, the same guy that voiced him in Clone Wars.
Oh, really?
That voice is incredible. I just think that voice is so powerful.
I mean,
I've
I
never
thought
heard a voice like that.
I thought the whole representation was great. Like it was
I
such
agree.
a Western thing, but like a Star Wars version of that thing.
Totally. Even the bell ringing, like with the wind,
Sure.
as Cad Bane's walking up, like you could just barely see him in the distance. Like even the way it was just presented, I thought was so cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
the
it was
streets
awesome.
clearing every time he would show
Yeah,
up. Yeah, everybody else would
exactly.
kind of stop in their tracks or hide behind things.
It's a bad looking dude, man.
Yeah, it was good. And then yeah, so he shoots the marshal, and Boba Fett was kind of depending on the marshal and the people of Freedomville to
Oh.
back him up.
Yeah. Freedom Town.
Freedom Town? Is that what it's
I don't
called?
know. I know that's freedom in it. I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know.
Freetown. That's what it's called.
Freetown.
Freetown.
That is it. Well done.
Yeah. One thing we haven't mentioned that has happened
What's that,
throughout
James?
this, because it's not a big deal, is like those what are they called? Pikes? those
Right.
fish alien mobsters
that run
basically.
spice. They
Yeah.
run spice. Yeah.
They run spice. They were running the train that the Tusken Raiders hijacked, and running throughout all these episodes is this kind of like backstory, the story in the back that's happening where they're just kind of taking over Tatooine little
Right.
by little, and basically they are after Boba Fett's territory, essentially.
Correct.
So Cad Bane hired by those guys to make sure Freetown does not get involved, and that's why the marshal must be shot.
And that's another scene where acting is so powerful
Mhm.
because Oliphant, when he's looking at his deputy, like just his facial expressions made you feel the tension of that jeopardy of how in jeopardy that deputy was putting him,
Mhm.
because he wasn't going to get into a gunfight with that guy. He knows better.
Mhm.
But that deputy, and just the way Tim Oliphant was like stressing out about that deputy, I just thought that scene, he made that scene just with his great acting abilities. Like I thought he made it so much more intense than a lot of actors couldn't have pulled that off the way he did. Thought it was so great because it was one time where I remember watching it. He's not looking at the deputy, but his body language is shifting to the deputy.
Mhm.
And it's like so good and natural that you know that he's like stressing out about this guy without even looking at the guy.
Mhm.
He's still keeping his eyes on Bane, and it's like, it's so well done in that scene. He did such a great job, I thought.
I liked it too. The other thing I liked in this episode, and I had not huge problems, but I had issues with it in Mandalorian season 2, the last episode, is the young Luke CGI.
Oh, sure.
Like the first time I saw young Luke CGI in Mandalorian season 2, the last episode, it bothered me. It just was not good. It was very distracting. And when I rewatched that series, it was better the second time because I knew it was coming, and I already knew wasn't convinced by it, and so I could just let it, go to the side. So it was helpful when it became apparent they were going to do it again.
Yeah.
I was prepared for it not to be very good, or at least be on par with Mandalorian season 2, and they did better, like notably better, I would say,
I would agree,
with the
considerably
face
better.
replacement. Then I read, do you remember, like about a week or two after Mandalorian season 2, the last episode came out, somebody on YouTube took that footage and did
Deepfake.
what do they call it?
Deep fake.
Did a deep fake, and it looked way better than what they did in CG. Did you hear that they hired that guy?
Oh, no way.
They hired that guy, and that guy did the face replacement in this.
Are you serious?
Which is why
How
it looks
cool is
better.
that?
Yeah.
Wow. So that guy it wasn't just some random dude that did it. It was somebody who's really good. Wow,
No, it was,
I didn't know that.
from what I understand, it was like a freelance 3D developer who had done deepfakes before as a hobby and just decided to do it on YouTube. Was not a guy who does deepfakes like for a living or anything like that, because who does
Wow.
deepfakes for a living, basically.
Sure.
And then they saw this fan reaction. They could tell the quality difference just like everybody else with eyes could.
Right.
And then they were like, well, we'll check our egos at the door and we'll get the guy who has already proven he can do it.
What a great story. If I knew nothing else of Jon Favreau and I just knew that, I would have so much respect. Who in Hollywood is going to do that?
Sure.
Who's going to check their ego enough to do that?
Right.
Like that is incredible. Wow, I didn't hear that. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah.
Great story.
Kudos to them for getting out of the way and just getting it done, even if it wasn't the flashiest way to do it.
Sure. Great story, James. Well done.
All right. This moves us into our final episode. This is episode 7, chapter 7. What?
You didn't cover the club. Yeah, the club.
What club? Oh, the club blowing up?
Yeah.
I don't care about that.
You don't care that coincidentally the elephant dude wasn't in the club that day? You don't find that interesting?
The elephant dude.
Yeah, Max Rito. He wasn't in the club that night
You mean
for some reason.
the band member.
Yeah.
Why
You
would
don't find that interesting?
Why would I find that interesting?
I think he's on the spice. He's got a snout, so he can take in a lot of spice at one time.
Sure.
I think he's part of this deal. And
You're
that's
right.
why he wasn't playing that night. Because every other night we saw him playing, not that night. Then they showed the band, and I was like, where's Max? No Max. And then boom.
You're right. I mean, there was lots of interesting things that happened in that episode, but that's probably the most interesting.
I agree. I'm glad you came around, James. That's conspiracy right there. I'm waiting. Just wait.
All right. Well, maybe he'll get his own series.
I'm sure he will. We'll look into that, and they'll do the replay of him escaping out the back,
Sure.
saying, I'm going to take a smoke break right before it blows up.
Yep, I'm sure that'll happen. I agree. All right, episode 7, chapter 7, In the Name of Honor. In this episode, I mean, honestly, not much happens in this episode. It's basically just a big fight between Cad Bane, Boba Fett, Mandalorian, the bikers, the spice aliens, and a giant rancor. And some
That's
like
about it.
what do they call it? What are those battle droids called? The ones with the shields? They were like
They weren't
mega versions of those.
droidicas. I thought they were droidicas.
Uh-huh.
Like, I have one actually on my desk at all times.
From the
Droidica?
prequels.
Yeah, I love these things.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that. They called it a scorpion droid, which I thought that's what they were too. I thought they were like giant droidicas,
Mhm.
but they're not. Supposedly they're scorpion droids.
But they're like these giant, I don't know, 4-story tall battle droids that
Right.
have one of those bubble force fields, much like some of the droids did in the prequels. And they're just fighting down the streets of Tatooine, like running all around the city and you know, all out battle.
But
And
there's
really
one
the
thing.
the centerpiece is this Rancor. Boba Fett going to go get his Rancor and showing up and riding it and fighting on that.
Can I ask why he didn't just get Slave One?
Didn't Slave One get destroyed in the Rancor pit?
Did it destroy it there?
I
Oh,
thought
okay.
it did.
I'm sure you're right. I forgot that. I may have repressed that.
I don't remember. I need to rewatch, but I might be wrong.
Okay, that makes sense. That would make sense why he got the Rancor then. So that makes sense. I don't know how far he had to go to get the Rancor, but I'm glad he got it.
The timeline seemed a little compressed.
Yeah, a little bit.
He like leaves in the middle of the battle and
I
then
know.
comes
I was
back
like,
like
where's he going?
5 minutes later with a Rancor, and I was like, wow, that thing moves fast.
Yeah, and he built the saddle and everything in like no time. I was impressed.
I believe that this is also something that happens in the books. Him riding around on a Rancor. Yeah. I mean, I haven't read the books, but
they actually teased it. You knew it was coming because they teased it when he was riding a bantha and somebody said something and he said, I've ridden much bigger things than that. And that was, so we knew that was coming at some point.
Sure.
When he said that. Yeah, that's a Mandalorian thing.
I guess the other thing that happens during the fight is that it's revealed that Grogu, picked the chainmail. He shows up to help out in the fight in his own ways. And at the very end of the episode, after beating back the battle bot and the spice aliens, Boba Fett kills Cad Bane with his gaffy stick, bringing it full circle for the season.
We think he kills
him. Sure. Yeah.
I've heard that there may be some potential that he's not quite dead.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know if that's true, but
hey, you're talking to the guy who still thinks Han Solo is alive. So
Han Solo is alive.
Oh, really? You think so too?
Oh, I totally think so. I totally think so. There's no way. Yeah, he didn't kill him on that bridge, which they do need to put guardrails on some of these Star Wars bridges. It's just not safe.
I don't think that's actually a bridge from that movie. I think it's more like I don't know what it is, but it's not a bridge.
Okay. Well, they need handrails on the not bridge things too, because it's really risky.
Yeah, I mean, my argument with episode 8 and that sequence, which I like that sequence a lot, is that when somebody dies in Star Wars, you see them die. When they fall down a pit, 9 times out of 10, they ain't dying.
Yeah.
And you see Han Solo fall off that not a bridge, and he doesn't. You don't see him
We saw
actually
Luke do
die.
it.
Right.
We saw Luke do it, and he
Right.
got saved by Lando in the Millennium Falcon.
For
So,
sure. We should have said spoilers for.
oh
Episode
wow,
8.
for those that haven't seen it, sorry about
That's
that.
right.
It's true.
I imagine they have seen that by now.
I don't know. Might be holding out.
So you think Cad Bane not dead, gonna come back in some other?
Too strong of a character. Why would you waste that character just in a couple episodes? There's too much that you can do with that, in my opinion. I mean, because he's just so cool.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen enough or any of the cartoons or the animated series to know whether that character is much deeper than what we saw on the screen here.
From what I know, that's about right. I think it's like Boba. At least I don't know of any backstory necessarily.
He's just
There
kind of a
might
hired
be.
gun type of thing.
Yeah, that's what I always thought, but I don't know that much about that character, but that's what I always thought.
Mhm. In Mandalorian, when they season 2, when they bring back Boba Fett and he's like the robed guy, does he have a gaffy stick in that sequence?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Remember, he like comes back
Yeah.
in one of those episodes and he kicks butt, and then you don't even realize it's Boba Fett till like, after the fight type of thing. I do
don't
feel like he
know.
dispatches people with a stick, but I don't remember if it's that gaffy stick.
Yeah, because I remember him swinging it something, but I don't
Mhm.
remember what he was swinging specifically.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to check that out. Nice.
If it is, I'm impressed that they thought that far ahead. To be like,
It almost seems like it would have to be, right? Because
I
don't know.
I don't know what other stick it would be. I don't think he's just swinging around a normal stick.
But wait a second. So the finale you're saying is before Mando?
What do you mean?
Like this episode 7.
Mm-hmm.
Was this before we saw Boba and Mando? This is after, right? 7 is after.
Oh, you mean in the timeline?
Yeah.
I think all the stuff that's Jabba related, like post Jabba, is stuff that happens after Mandalorian season 2, and all this Tusken Raider stuff
Is before. Well, I never thought about the timeline. That's interesting.
Before he takes over the seat.
It makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Jabba's seat. Yeah.
Totally makes sense.
Because
Wow.
at that point in Mandalorian, he doesn't have a relationship with Fennec.
Right. That's right. Because she hasn't even come down from the.
Right.
That's true. She doesn't have the abs of vibranium yet. That's true.
Yeah. I definitely didn't tear up, but the only thing that really got me excited in this series was the Rancor running through the streets. I mean, that was like 6-year-old James, who used to watch Return of the Jedi over and over and over and over again, would have never imagined I would get to see that on screen. Like the Rancor doing anything other than being in that dark pit where you could only see half of it. And
wow.
It was like not something I ever thought I'd wanted to see.
Right.
Like I just hadn't conceptualized that could be a thing that would ever happen. And then when I saw that on screen, I was like, why have I not ever really thought that this would be cool? You know what I mean? Like the idea of somebody riding him and somebody, having it go up King Kong style up a tower. And yeah, I mean, it was great. I liked it.
That is pretty cool.
As far as action goes, it was probably my favorite sequence of the series.
That's pretty awesome. The one thing about the Rancor that surprised me, and I guess it's a testament to how strong Cad Bane is, because Cad Bane took that Rancor out and made it run away in no time.
Sure.
I mean, he did one thing and then the Rancor just ran away. And I know part of that was the story so they could be alone or whatever, but I still thought that made Cad Bane even like a badder dude. Like somebody that can scare Rancors. That's pretty high up there, I would think.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like this episode, but it's all, everything builds to this, and then you just have a big battle.
Yeah. I thought one thing I have to go back and see, because I thought that the Rancor at one point threw Luke's land speeder.
Mm-hmm.
Like he bit it and threw it, and I swore it was Luke's land speeder from A New Hope, but I have to go back and see that again.
I mean, I recognize that as a land speeder too. I just didn't know whether there's is there only one Luke's land speeder, or I thought.
Well, his model, the one that they traded in or whatever, he said that you can't get that much money for these anymore.
Sure.
That's what. That's
what would tell us if it is actually Luke's land speeder, though? Is there like a marking on it or a difference?
Besides the color scheme and the model, I don't know about anything else. Yeah. Unless C-3PO is in it. That's the only thing I don't know.
In it, not from what I remember.
I don't remember seeing him either. I'll look again though. With the sand and stuff, that gold
frame by frame, please.
Yeah, that's right. I'll do that for sure. Did this episode leave you with any questions? Because it left me with a whole bunch of questions.
No. Let's hear your questions. Maybe I can answer them.
So, the question I have, is, so Tatooine was a water planet,
mm-hmm.
which is interesting that it had two suns and was a water planet.
Sure.
So,
it was one day at one point. It's obviously not anymore.
But it had two suns.
That's why it's no longer a water planet.
Okay, fair enough. and then was Boba originally a Mandalorian? And then did he kind of lose his way? Was he never a Mandalorian? Did he just take the armor from his father and paint it? Why did he go away from the blue and gray? And just why didn't he just take the armor from his dad? Why is it different?
Yeah, see, these are the questions that I thought they would answer in this series, and they they didn't even attempt to answer any of those.
No, but that's really what I thought would have been compelling, because that's what makes the character who he is. I mean, we saw him from a little kid have a tragedy, and then it's that's what I wanted it to pick up from. How did that kid turn out to be Boba Fett? That's really what I would like to see. I don't necessarily need to see an Anakin Skywalker when he's in pod racer stuff,
right?
But maybe from his 20s on, what made Boba, and they could have done that in flashbacks and still kept Boba, mm-hmm. But in flashbacks told me that story a little bit. I think that would have been interesting.
Yeah. So remind me, in the prequels, Boba Fett's dad,
Jango
Fett, which is who the stormtroopers are based on when the stormtroopers were clones.
Correct.
And then one of a kind Jango Fett, the first Jango Fett, dies in battle.
Well, it's Boba that battle Fett. In that gladiator thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Dies there. Young Jango Fett takes his helmet.
Right.
And we're to assume he goes on to become Boba Fett. That's the last thing we hear about Boba Fett until this series.
Exactly.
So yeah, there's no explanation of whether he's involved with the Mandalorians at all, or if he just found that armor somewhere and started wearing it.
That's what I mean. Did the Mandalorians find him and train him, or mm-hmm. Or what happened? And then, like I said, how did he get that insignia in particular? Because we know how Mando got that rhino thingy. Mm-hmm. So how did Boba Fett get his? Things like that are what I would have loved to have learned, because I think that would have been so cool, mm-hmm. To find that stuff out. And then, I thought Jennifer Beals' character, I thought she was really compelling. I was bummed that she blew up in the club thing, mm-hmm. because I thought her character was really interesting, and I thought, well, naturally they're going to want a club to sell spice, right? That mm-hmm. naturally, so I didn't think they were going to blow up the club. And then I want so much more on the Darksaber. I honestly thought when Ahsoka was talking to Mando, mm-hmm. I thought she was going to start training him on another side of the planet on how to use the Darksaber. That part I thought that they were going to do Grogu's on one side of the planet, Mando's on the other. He can't talk to him, but they're both training and learning and stuff like that. I thought they were going to do something like that. Mm-hmm. Maybe that would have been cheesy. I don't know, but I would love to see I love that the armorer said you're fighting the Darksaber. The Darksaber will always win if you fight it. You have to fight your opponent. I thought that was an introduction to a training sequence for Mando. And maybe that's coming up in The Mandalorian. I don't know. But I think that would be really cool because the dark saber potentially could be like the coolest weapon we've ever seen in Star Wars if it's used correctly.
Mhm.
Because it's considered such a powerful weapon. So that was the other part that I thought was interesting. Like I wanted to see more of, but it's not Mando's show, so I get that. But I'm hoping to see that in the next episode, in the next series of Mando. Hoping to see more in the dark saber because they made it look really cool with their effects. They did a great job.
How much Boba Fett do you think we'll see in Mandalorian? You think it'll be kind of like this, where it's like a weird combination?
I think Mando and Kenobi, I think, and Boba, I think all three of them will interlace each other quite a bit. And I know you talked about the time period, so you're right about Kenobi with that. But I think some characters that are ageless, I think there will be some cross between all of them.
Well, I mean,
they're all in Tatooine, right?
Boba Fett, in theory, could easily be in the new Kenobi.
Absolutely.
From an age perspective. I don't know where
so
Mandalorian seems younger than Boba Fett by maybe 10, 15 years.
Yeah, no
maybe
doubt.
even 20 years. Like if Boba Fett is like in his 50s, Mandalorian's maybe in his mid 30s. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah. Well, it's Pascal, right? And he's like almost 50 now, I think. But I know what you mean.
Right, but I mean, as far as the characters go.
Yep, I agree. The way it's played is definitely like a 20-year difference for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the armor has something to do with it, right? With Mando's armor looking so new and fresh.
Yeah, although he's actually in the clan, so whenever he has, bent armor, he can go get it fixed. Whereas if Boba Fett is not actually in the clan,
he's screwed. Out to lunch. For sure. And now we have to see Mando get back in the clan, right? Because he's kind of ousted now. So he's got to find those waters so that he can get redemption.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with season 3 because I don't have too many unanswered questions when it comes to the Mandalorian himself. You know what I mean? It's kind of like they need to give he's like the Grogu thing's done, right? It's done. I mean, I'm sure they'll throw in a wrinkle here or there, but like what's the overarching next thing? Because I can't take another season of him dragging Grogu around.
I see him returning him back to Dagobah. I really do. I don't feel like I think they'll do like 1 or maybe 2 episodes where they're, doing their little things. And then I think he'll take him back or he'll take him to Ahsoka or somebody.
Or maybe they'll do a season where like over the course of the season, he realizes that he really should be in Dagobah.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. Cause you know what? I have to admit, I didn't think they'd have as much story as they've had in Mandalorian. So I don't even know. Who knows what Jon Favreau has up his sleeve?
Yeah.
I mean, I never. If you told me you're gonna have a baby Yoda, I would have been like, "What? Why would you do that?" So I'm just gonna trust him. I'm sure he's got a story there somewhere.
Honestly, I'm ready for them to just break free.
I knew it. James.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not saying I'm done with these characters or Tatooine.
You just said you're done with these characters.
I love all that, but I need like I don't know. I need a series that takes place entirely on the Death Star. I need some office politics, little he said, she said.
Little water cooler talk.
Yeah.
In the Death Star. Gotcha. So you basically need
some behind
SNL
the scenes, the maintenance guys.
So you need the SNL episode of the Hidden Boss or whatever with you need one of those. Gotcha.
Well, do you remember that fan film that somebody made like in the early 2000s? It was like one of the earliest web videos called Troops, where it was cops, but instead of cops like bad boys, what it was, instead of that TV show, it was that, but in the style of Sand Troopers. So it was like these fans wore like Sand Trooper costumes and they just filmed themselves out in a desert, basically acting like 2 Sand Troopers on patrol and like talking exactly like cops do on the Cops TV show. And at one point they pull somebody over and they're talking directly into the camera like the cops did on that TV show. It was
I
great.
never even heard of that.
It got passed around a lot. Yeah.
I will check that out. It's called Troops.
Troops. Yeah. I'm sure you
I
can
will
find
check
it in
that.
very low quality on the internet.
I don't need
Just
quality. I'm good.
search Star Wars Troop. I'm curious if it would still come up if you just terped Star
Terped?
Wars Troops.
All right, I'm terping right now.
Absolutely, it comes up. 1997 they made it. Cops parody. Star Wars / Cops parody.
Yeah, and I see the link. 10 minutes and 9 seconds.
10 minutes, so it's an easy watch.
That's amazing. Yeah, I will definitely check that out.
And I like it because it's kind of funny if you know cops, but it's not really
sure.
like jokey or played for laughs.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like they didn't. It's not. It says like parody and stuff like that, but
it's
more a parody of cops than it is Star Wars. Like they played it straight as far as like if somebody was making an episode of Cops inside Star Wars type of thing.
Sure. I will definitely check this out. This premiered at San Diego Comic-Con in 97, July 18th.
Yeah, that was back before the actual people behind Star Wars would go to Comic-Con.
Right. That's right. I remember that. That's right. That's funny.
You remember back in the day they used to do, did you ever see the Batman versus Predator?
Oh my gosh. A long time ago.
Yeah. People used to make really amazing fan, short films and put them online. And then that kind of stopped, I think. I don't know why.
I do wonder why, because it's easier to do now. Like, I wonder why.
You would think.
Maybe we should do that, James.
People don't do it anymore.
Well,
that Batman versus Predator one cost like $60,000. That was an expensive fan film.
Yeah, but that was pretty decent though. I bet they made 3 times that.
Sure. And one of the guys worked on the costuming for Predator. So that was helpful too. Like he already had access to the Predator suits.
Oh wow. And I'm gonna tie this all in together. The guy who plays Black Santi, let's call him. He actually is the last guy who played Predator.
Really?
Yeah, he's like 6'7", big dude.
I figured it was just the guy they had in episode 9. Didn't they have a different guy playing
Oh, Chewie?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. This is a different dude.
They got some young guy to be Chewie now because
they did.
What's his name? Did he pass away by then? I know he couldn't do it, but
he passed away, I think, shortly after. Peter Mathau. Is it Peter Mathau, right? Is that right?
I think so. Something like that.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Okay.
Well, now we've talked about it a bunch. If you don't have any more questions, right? About the end.
I do not have any more questions.
Okay. Now that we've talked about it a bunch, does your opinion change about Book of Boba Fett, or are you still sticking with pretty good?
You made me feel a little worse about it than I did before this conversation.
Why?
But just because you highlighted some things that I guess I chose to either repress or overlook. I'm not sure. That it could have done without. But I'm gonna stick with my. I really think it's a testament to how good Mandalorian is, as opposed to Book of Boba Fett's not very good. I think it's just Mandalorian is just that high level quality that it's going to make anything pale in comparison. I think.
I absolutely think they could have not done the Mandalorian stuff and not done the Grogu stuff and kept it Boba Fett. I don't know what they could have added that would have made him more interesting, but it seems like they ran out of creative juice there and they were like, let's go back to the well. And they did it well. Right. You know what I mean? They worked it back in. Mm-hmm. It was fine, but it did feel like a little bit like, okay, so this is just Mandalorian 2.5?
Exactly. And let's get our fan base back, people. Right. Let's give them a couple episodes of what they really want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That was it for the Book of Boba Fett. Are you looking forward to
Kenobi?
Obi-Wan Kenobi? I mean, they've been talking about this TV show for so long. I mean, even before Disney had Disney Plus,
right?
They were talking about making a live action TV show about Obi-Wan Kenobi. So, I don't know. Feels because it's what's his name, right?
It's Ewan McGregor.
It's Ewan McGregor, right? But Ewan McGregor, when they started talking about this, was 15 years younger than he is right now.
And I saw side by side. He is actually, I think he's like 2 years older than Obi-Wan was by Alec Guinness in A New Hope, which is crazy.
Absolutely, I believe that. That's why when they talk about this and they're like, "Oh, it's like the Obi-Wan origin story," I'm like, "With the old guy?" It's been 20 years since he's been in a Star Wars movie.
I think with Hayden Christensen in it, I think that excites me a little bit because I think there's a lot of things they can do. And I think for him to agree to do it, it has to be compelling enough that he was like, you know what, I do want to be a part of this. Because he's one that's shied away, from a lot of things. I know he's come around recently, but I feel he's come around because of this Obi-Wan series that's coming. So that makes me a little bit more excited about it because I feel like he's one of those actors that wouldn't do it unless it was right. I feel.
I mean, I'm excited about Hayden. I'm more excited about Hayden Christensen, to be honest, because
me too.
I think Hayden Christensen, I mean, he's no Oscar-winning actor, but I think he's certainly better than what people remember him from the prequels as.
Absolutely.
Not that he's good in the prequels, but if you've seen other movies with him that aren't Star Wars related, the guy can
he's
act.
a good actor.
Yeah, he's
definitely
perfectly fine actor for sure. And so I think with a better script, hopefully he'll get to show some of that off and redeem
it. And I think that's what he wants. And I feel like that's what he wants. He wants a little redemption that way, I feel.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think there's a lot of cool things they can do with it. There's a lot that they can get wrong, but I think this director, which I think is Deborah Chow, right? She's the one that did she did some of the best Mandalorian episodes. She's directing the whole thing. It's one director. And I have a lot of respect for her. I think that's her name. I have a lot of respect for her. And I know she's going to crush it. So I have more confidence knowing that she's behind all the episodes too.
She's a Canadian filmmaker. Let's see if she's made anything I have seen. Oh, she did. No, I don't think I've seen anything. I mean, evidently she's directed TV episodes that I'm sure I've seen.
Yeah, and if you look at the Mandalorian episodes she directed, you'll know what I mean. She was like Dallas Bright's Howard level of direction. Like she made those episodes great.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these are shows I like, for sure.
Yeah, so knowing that she's behind it, I feel really confident. And then, like I said, Hayden Christensen coming back for that makes me really hopeful that it's a really good story. But we'll see.
She directed the new Red Hot Chili Peppers music video.
Oh, no way. She must be a fan.
They just released a song, first song in like 6.5 years. And it's all right.
I didn't even know they were still together.
It's nothing crazy. Well, yeah, I mean, I think people forgot they existed because you don't release something for 6.5. I mean, 6.5 years was like before Trump got elected. You know what I mean? That was a long time ago was the last time they released music.
And the fact that Flea is alive.
Oh, not only is it
right?
Flea, yeah, Flea's the bassist, but it's the guy. So when they were in their heyday, they had a guy who played guitar, like was a jam rock guitarist in their band, and then they kicked him out of the band for like heroin use that the guy wouldn't get help for, basically. So they kicked him out of the band, and then made 2 or 3 albums without him that were not good, and then 6.5 years of no music. And now they're back, and this guy has gotten sober, and he's back. And
oh, good for him!
There's a huge guitar solo in the new song. It's almost like they were just saying, "Hey,
he's back."
If you liked him in the band, that's what we got.
Wow, how do you kick heroin? That's incredible, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you ever really do, but you can put it at bay for as long as you can.
I gotcha. Well, good for them. That's exciting. Well, there you go. She directed that, so you know she's good.
Oh,
and you know she's not on heroin. So there's that too.
Do we know that? I don't know if we know that. We'll assume. We'll assume.
That's a fair point. I like to assume in this case.
It's either high functioning or one or the other.
Either way, we don't know. So it's all good.
All right. Well, thank you for listening to this episode 517 of the Cinereelists. We appreciate your listenership. Don't forget, check out the video version on YouTube, support us on Patreon, leave us an Apple Podcast review, or send us a listener email to heyguys@cinereelists.com. You could also follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or TikTok. Mohsen, did you know we have a TikTok account now?
I did not know that. You guys are moving up.
You gotta
staying with the times.
You got to check that out.
All right, we'll do. That's hilarious.
I know you spend all your time on TikTok, so
All day long. All day long. It messes with my heroin. But still fun time.
Yep. Yeah, so do any of those kinds of things. You could also find me on social media at YoJRB. Mo, where can the listeners find you online?
They can find me everywhere. If you just type in Batman, I come back right away. So whatever image you see, the more buff the image is, the more it's probably me. So
sure.
Yeah.
Just search Batman on Wikipedia. There's your photo right there.
There it is, right there. Yep.
Yep. Do you consider yourself more Batman or more Bruce Wayne?
Oh, that's a theory. That's a philosophical question that requires a few hours. I don't. Last I logged in the Chase account, I'm definitely not as much Bruce Wayne as I had hoped by now in my life. So I'm gonna. You know what?
Sure.
That'll be a great teaser for our Batman episode.
Okay.
Coming up.
You're gonna think about this for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then
I'm going to OCD over this. Yes,
okay.
And I will give you a philosophical answer.
Sounds good.
Which one?
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining me, Mohsen. This was fun.
It is my pleasure. Always good to hook up with you, James.
I appreciate you filling in for the other slackers.
See, now you just made me feel like a fifth choice by saying filling in.
No, I'm just saying my co-host slacked, and you had to pick up their slack.
James, I'm always here for you, James. Always here for you.
It took I had to get rid of 2 people just to make room for you.
Right, that's how it is, because it's the green M&Ms in the green room.
You got it.
And thank you for those, by the way.
No problem. Anytime. All right, that's it. Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate it. We'll see you guys next week, where we will be talking Nightmare Alley, which we were supposed to talk about this week, but now everybody that didn't see it yet, they got another week to go check it out on Hulu or HBO Max. We'll be talking that next week. Until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.